Lebakhan, good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for your time this morning. So, emigration, are we seeing a direct impact on schools, especially private schools?
We have had some reports from our member schools indicating that many families are immigrating and they are seeing an uptick in terms of immigration, yes.
So what is the impact? Are you able to give us maybe roughly some numbers as to what we're seeing in terms of pupils exiting private schools?
Many of our schools, I mean, you've just mentioned that Vitec was one of our members, and you've mentioned those figures. But many schools are talking about an increase of, say, maybe 5 families would be leaving. Now you're talking about 10 to 15 who are leaving now this year.
And, I mean, are there any other factors that are also affecting the numbers that we are seeing dwindling in private schools? Is it a matter of high fees other than just immigration?
We are actually quite surprised to hear that reporting that there's a drop in independent school numbers. In our figures, we actually as an association have grown quite significantly. In fact, I was looking at the figures most recently and I was quite shocked. For a long time, we were educating 166,000 students. Now we're sitting at 190,000 students. So we have not seen that drop in terms of enrollments in independent schools. What we are seeing is that parents are making decisions to cascade down in terms of fee levels. So they'll go from a high fee school to a mid fee school.
Okay, so fees are a determining factor. Fees
Very much, yes.
Because they are impacting the household.
Definitely.
What about teachers? I mean, we've also seen reports of teachers leaving the country, which might be impacting these schools as well.
In fact, I think that we could see that as a good reason and something to celebrate as a country. Because what is happening is that obviously our teachers are in great demand and they are actually demanded internationally. So we are seeing immigration from teachers, but also sometimes they're leaving because their partner or spouse, as a family, they leave in the country. But there is a demand for South African teachers, there's no question, in international markets.
So what do we do? I mean, you say, yes, it seems like fees are having an impact. Parents who could afford can no longer afford to keep their children. Is there maybe a discussion about lowering the fees at these private schools to maybe bring in the numbers?
The great difficulty for independent schools in South Africa is that we are seeing an increase in terms of financial assistance that's been given back to parents. However, what is important to note is that because of the significant portion of the basket that is salaries, which invariably all of us don't want to get inflationary increases. So in independent schools, you're talking about your wage bill being up to 80 to 70%. As a result, that is why you see that increases in terms of school fees are invariably higher than national inflation. And we estimate between 2 to 3% is higher in terms of education market. So what we do encourage parents to do is to look for those schools that they can afford. There is wide variety of diversity. So our schools in ISASA charge fees between R0 and for a full boarding school around 285,000 a year.
Wow. Okay. Well, already that number's got me feeling a bit dizzy. So, I mean, there are also ways to maybe, I don't know, work around this. A lot of schools offering, is it sibling discounts or those with more than one child at a particular school? Are you looking at innovative ways then, maybe, to keep parents at these schools?
Each school has its own funding model, and so, you know, as an ISASA, we are a schools association, so we actually do not dictate policy. So we do see that there are some schools that offer discounts. There are also schools that offer, if you pay the fees at the beginning of the year, they'll give you a 5 to 8% discount. Sometimes those discounts, even as a parent, when you look at it, it's better for you to keep the money in the bank, get your interest and pay them when it's due. But actually, for many parents, especially if you're struggling with fees, it really is not a bad idea to know, I got my bonus in January, or I got it in December. I'm going to take a portion of that, pay the school fees. Then I know for the rest of the year I don't have to worry about whether my children are in a good school or not.
So it's done that way. So just a final word from you, then, Lebakhan. I mean, do you see private schools continuing to survive? Are you worried about the future of private schools if we see numbers like this continuing to dwindle?
No, actually, I was talking to one of my colleagues, one of our heads, who's left a school. He called me. He's going to be opening up another school in KwaZulu-Natal. We can only see growth in terms of independent schools in Southern Africa and in South Africa. But also what people don't understand is that South Africa really is divided into 2 types of schools. No-fee schools and those who charge fees. So both public schools and independent schools that charge fees are actually in the same market. So I would expect actually more growth in fees that range around 15 to 25,000 rands. Though that is where we are seeing growth in terms of increases in member schools.
Now, I've also heard criticism, and that could be from angry friends or relatives, I don't know, but just saying that when it comes to schools like this, to independent schools, to private schools, it's more about the business than education of pupils, that business is their priority. I'd like your thoughts on that.
Oh, I think that's unfair. Every teacher and school I've entered into, they always worry about the child. And I think that is something that is what I love about my job. You know, I'm a former attorney, and when I go into schools, in fact, I was saying to my colleagues, what I love about education, people laugh, they hug, they talk about children and trying to make the very best for them. However, it is important that independent schools must ensure that they are sustainable. And also, as parents, I encourage parents to look for those schools that actually fit their ethos and their principles. So you must look for a school that actually mirrors the values of your family rather than say, okay, fine, it's a closer school or it's a name brand school. And also, more importantly, not every school is for every child. So even within a family, some children may thrive in a small environment, some children may thrive in a big environment.
It's important to know where you're
So those are it. Thank
All right,
you.
thanks very much for that. Well, it is tough times. Schools feeling the pinch as well. Executive Director of the Independent Schools Association of Southern Africa, Lebogang Montjane, joining us now.